welcome back. Thank you for joining us. My name is Melinda, and this is my sister guest appearance, Michaela, and we're here to tell you all about our wonderful Disney World trip and our review. Alright, everyone, thank you for coming back. And as I said before, I have a guest with me, Michaela, my sister. We wanted to film this live on our sister trip at Disney World, but did we have time to do that?
She wore me out.
Oh my gosh! First off, that's not true. You know how I do Disney, everyone. You've seen my vlogs. This one right here, oh man, she wore me out. Up at 6 a.m. and didn't get back to the hotel until 10 or 10:30 at night. But before we get to that, let's start with how we got to Disney World. So, as you know, my family is in Idaho and I am in California. So unfortunately, we were not able to fly together. But even with that, I think that we pretty much timed it pretty well. Don't you think so, Michaela?
Well, I don't know how long you were waiting around baggage claim for me, but it worked out great for me.
I waited 1 hour, which is not bad, actually.
No, that's not bad.
No, not at all. I took American Airlines to and from Disney from Los Angeles area, and the airports were very busy on my end. I flew out of LAX and I had a layover in Dallas, and then obviously we ended up in Orlando. But it was packed. There wasn't very many spaces to sit down at when I was waiting for my gate, and that's probably because American was full. They kept telling us over the PA that this flight is full. If you want to check luggage for free, they would be more than happy to do that. And when I got on the flight, it was full. No social distancing. Did you have social distancing?
Sure did. No center seats filled on both my flights.
And who did you take?
I took Delta from Spokane, Washington International Airport with a layover in Salt Lake City and then on to Orlando.
And on the way back?
On the way back, I took Southwest.
Okay.
And they did social distance as well. Yeah, they sure did. They weren't as organized.
Okay.
It was a little more chaotic on that one, and since it's basically a free-for-all and non-assigned seating, there was no organized way to put people on the plane, and then when the plane landed on Southwest, everybody just pushed forward and didn't care.
So they didn't have where they let each row go at a time to make sure people were social distancing?
Not on Southwest.
Did they do that with Delta?
They did. Delta was great. They boarded the plane from the rear forward so that nobody had to walk by each other on the plane and load. And then when we disembarked, then they said, don't stand up until the row in front of you was already walking. And everybody did. Everybody did exactly like they were supposed to. They followed the instructions. It was great.
That's really nice. American did not have that. It was literally the typical flight. And just to let you know, we went on our trip September 2020. Just to let you know where we are in the year. And American, it was like before 2020 happened. They called Group 1 up, and of course that's first class and anyone who needs assistance or their mileage plan. And they were seated in first, and then Group 2, Group 3. So it was not from back to front. So there were people walking by. And disclaimer, I was in first class. So because they kept mentioning that this flight was full, I wanted to see if they were social distancing, because in first class, obviously they're not, right? I'm like, they're not. So they're not
next to each other.
Right. You're right next to each other, and they were very good about the masks though. And during the flight, I used the lavatory and I looked back because I wanted to see, and there didn't look to be like social distancing. It was a packed flight. Now that could have been families, but families in every row. I didn't really see very many seats empty at all. And they did do this. I don't know if they did this on your flight, but as you're getting on the plane, they would hand you a bag with water, a sanitized wipe, and your snack. So there wasn't any cart service. They handed it out as you got on the flight. Did they do that with you?
On Delta, when you boarded the flight, they handed you sanitizer.
Okay.
Then during the flight, twice during the flight, well, 3 times if you count the layover, they came through with Ziploc bags that had water, a couple of snacks, and then sanitizers in it, and handed it to the people that wanted it.
Oh, that's nice.
And then when you left, they also gave you a hand sanitizer on the way out.
Oh.
And then on Southwest, there was...
I drank wrong. And then I covered your face. Okay, go ahead.
There was not... Sorry, on Southwest, there wasn't any of that. There was limited snack service, but they did bring it to the hallway just in the basket like they normally do.
Okay.
And for beverage, they had cups of ice water. So not in a container sealed, but cups of ice water.
And they handed those out?
They handed those out.
Okay. And I have to be honest, because I was in first class, I did not see a cart go up and down the aisle, but I don't know if they were handing out more to the passengers. They were up in first class. They were, if we wanted drinks or whatever, they would get it for us or refill it. Oh.
I'm a Delta fan now, FYI, if anybody needs to know.
You did say that. That was the first time you flew Delta, and you said it was fantastic.
Yes, first time I've ever flown Delta. I usually fly Southwest because I'm thrifty at heart and I don't like to pay for luggage. However, in the future, if I need to do a cross-country flight again, it will be Delta. Just for the comfort value, the inboard movies for free at each seat. It was It was great, and the people walking through were great, and the co-passengers were also very respectful, and I just liked the environment. It was great. And so for future cross-country, Delta all the way. They love to fly, and it showed.
Oh, is that their slogan?
It used to be. It's not anymore.
Oh my god. I can't believe you just did that. Oh my gosh. People. I'm like, that sounds like their slogan. I do want to tell you, if we're done talking about the actual airlines, when I did my packing video, I showed you my new carry-on by Nomad Lane. It's the bento box, travel bento box, bento bag. It's not a box, it's a bag. Well, it's a bag. And the company has great customer service. But the point of that bag, which I talked to you in my packing video, is that it's supposed to carry multiple things in it and fit underneath the seat in front of you. It's the size and dimensions were made for underneath the seat. And as I show you here, it did not fit under the seat in front of me. It would fit on the way there, whatever plane I was on for American, it would fit under the seat sideways. But on the way back, which I did not get a video of, it didn't fit at all, and I had to put it up above. Which, I mean, that's not bad, but I always like to carry just one carry-on with me, and I like it to be in the front, in the seat underneath me, in front of me, so I can get to items that I need readily.
Same.
Yeah, right? You like to have it underneath you. So I just wanted to follow up on that because it's a great looking bag. It carries a lot of items. Now, once again, disclaimer, I was in first class and I do feel like the seats are bigger there. There's not as much room underneath the seats, and that might have been the issue. So, to be continued on that. Anything else you want to talk about? About the airports or the flight?
No.
Okay. Then we are moving on to...
Domestic Magical Express.
Magical Express. Because that's what we did next, right? So I waited for an hour in the airport. I just colored. I brought my adult coloring items and I colored. And picked her up at the baggage claim. And then we went off to Magical Express. Do you want to tell them about that?
We checked in. There you go. It's very organized, which I guess you would expect for Disney, which is great. Mm-hmm. There's a check-in booth, and they tell you which lane or which hotel you're going to get on which bus. Mm-hmm. And so we checked in with our magic bands.
That was so much fun. And you do have to make a reservation on your reservation that you're going to use the Magical Express before you get there. All right, go.
And then we got on the bus and they drove us there.
But how long was the wait? It wasn't very long at all. When we were rolling up, which I'll show you right now, when we were rolling up, it said there was a 45-minute wait. And how long was it?
I don't think it was anywhere near 45 minutes.
No, it was like 10 minutes, right?
And I think 45 minutes probably would have been if they were filling the bus. But since it was every other row.
Yeah. It was every other row.
And every other aisle. So
that's true. That is true. So we were the second family on. Yes, we were the second family on, which it could have taken a while too if the flights weren't landing as they were. But we were the second family on, and it's every other row and then diagonal as well. So
it took no time at all to fill up the bus.
Exactly. So the row in front of us was completely empty, the whole row, both sides. And then the next row up, the person would have to sit on the opposite side that we were on, if that makes sense. So it did take, it was maybe 4 or 5, maybe 5 families that came on, and then we left. It wasn't very many.
At all. And we only stopped at one other resort before they dropped us off at ours.
Oh my gosh, I thought we were no. We did?
Pop Century. Because I'd never seen such a thing. And you were like, yeah, it's Pop Century. And then they went to ours after that.
Oh my gosh. And see, then it really didn't take very long. Because I thought we went straight to our hotel. All right. We stay, speaking of hotels. Because I'm like, that was very seamless. Magical Express, I really liked it. Now,
this is what 2020 did to our vacation.
Right? Seriously. Originally, this little trip where we did 3 days, well, really 2 full days at Disney World was tacked on to the front end of our Disney cruise. And so that's why we were only spending a couple days there. But as you all know, our Disney cruise for September 2020 was canceled. And my sister and I decided to go ahead and make this a sister trip since it was only a couple days. And when we originally booked, we were in Animal Kingdom Lodge Club level. And then COVID happens. And then they said Animal Kingdom Lodge, the club level wasn't going to be open. Only the DVC side was going to be open. So they moved us.
That stands for Disney Vacation Club.
Very good. Thank you. Sorry. So they moved us. They moved us to the Polynesian club level. And then literally a couple weeks after that, they called and said, sorry, that is not going to be open either. So now we were staying at Caribbean Beach Club. Right?
Caribbean Beach Resort.
Oh, resort. Sorry. Mm-hmm. No club level. There is absolutely no club level right now.
It's a moderate resort of the Disney resorts that are available at Walt Disney World, Orlando.
So we went from deluxe club level to moderate, right? Don't smile. She's smiling because, as you all know on this channel, I am a club level deluxe first class type of girl. Which financially I probably shouldn't be, but I am. And my sister is a
thrifty
yes
kind of gal.
Yeah. She likes the Well, she doesn't know. She's never stayed there, but she would be the budget resorts at Disney. Absolutely. Anyways.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I know.
The budget resorts are like $200 a night. That's a budget resort?
At Disney it is.
Yeah,
I know, right? Yeah, at Disney it is. But with that being said, though, I did like the the Caribbean Beach Resort. It's a mouthful.
It turned out to be a lot nicer than we had anticipated, but
Right.
really, it's a resort. You can't go wrong. They do everything really nice.
That is true.
And the lobby smelled delicious.
Oh my gosh, the lobby smelled fantastic. It did. It's a completely separate building than the rooms. So we walked through there from our pavilion, or when we got dropped off at the front, we'd walk through there to get to our building, I guess it's called.
Mm-hmm.
And
our neighborhood.
Our neighborhood.
There's 5 different neighborhoods at the Caribbean Beach Resort. There's Jamaica,
Yeah.
Aruba, Martinique, another one.
Barbados. And another one.
Yeah,
and Trinidad. It's Trinidad. Yeah. And the lobby threw me for a loop because it's called Old Royale. And they'd be like, "Oh, we're gonna pick you up at Old Royale," and I'm like, "No, we're at Caribbean Beach."
Court Royale.
Oh yeah, that's what it was. Old Court Royale. And I'm like, "No, we're at Caribbean Beach," and they're like, "Yeah, Old Court Royale," and I'm like, "No, Court. Port." See, I can't even remember. I'm like, that's not where we're staying. And they're like, "Yes, it is. It is where you're staying."
I didn't even know what words he was using, but I'm like,
oh yeah, okay.
Over and over where I thought we were going.
That gets into transportation right here, where she's talking about. Let's talk about transportation real quick then, since you touch bases on it. That's our only probably Disney complaint, right? Is transportation. Like our major Disney complaint would be transportation.
Our major Disney complaint is transportation.
Absolutely.
3 of the 5 modes were not available.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah. Okay. So before 2020, before the shutdown, Disney transportation was very all-inclusive, basically, and there was so many means to get around in Disney World. You had buses from resort to resort. You had buses from resort to parks, buses from parks to resort. You had to Disney Springs buses from Disney Springs to places. You had
name it, there was a bus to it or from it.
Right. And then they had the ferries, or what are they called?
Not the Tinkerbell kind of ferries.
No, the boat ferries. They had boat ferries or boats, transportation. To Disney Springs, to resorts, all over the place. They have monorail from the resort line, so it goes to all of the resorts and Magic Kingdom. And then they had an Epcot Monorail line as well.
And when she says all the resorts, she just means the resorts that are on the monorail system.
Good point.
Not all resorts are on the monorail system.
Good point. That is true. I only mean Grand Floridian, Polynesian, and Contemporary. That's the one on the resort monorail. And then the Epcot monorail goes from ticketing to Epcot, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you have the Skyliner. And the Skyliner, there's a direct one from the Caribbean Beach area to straight to Epcot. And then there's another one that goes to Caribbean Beach. Is it Pop Century?
Hollywood Studios, and Art of Animation.
Okay, yeah.
Because I think because I've decided I'd like to go back to Disney World sometime. I've been doing further research since I got back, and I think that the Skyliner station is shared by Pop Century and the Art of Animation. I think they share a Skyliner station in between them.
Which I believe you're right. I believe that's true. All right. Now that was a big statement my sister just made, because I am the Disney person, not my sister. The only time she goes to Disney is when I pretty much force her, and I think she's actually reached out to me and said, hey, let's go to a Disney World trip. Let's make it longer. I take, of course, my boys, and she's going to take her grandson, one of her grandsons.
One of them. The other one will only be like 2 or 3, so that's too little.
So I was like, what? That was a shocker. But anyways, back to transportation. Because, whoop, squirrel, right? I just squirreled. Whoop. Okay, so, and I think that's all the options, right? Those were all the transportation options before. We did the boat, buses,
the Skyliner, the ferry, the monorail, and minivans.
Oh yeah, and the minivans. They had minivans, but the minivans were not inclusive to your resort pricing. You did have to pay an extra charge for minivans. It was contracted with Uber, and so therefore you had to pay for them, but that was an option as well. All right. So now in September 2020, Michaela and I found out the hard way that there is, we're going to say, not very many transportation options. Are you going to go with that one? Not very many. No, not at all. Not great at all. Thankfully, we were at the Caribbean Beach Resort, so the Skyliner was right there. We were in building 52, and we were super close to the Riviera Resort. That resort, which is the one where the Skyliner to get on to go to Epcot, a direct Epcot. Now, with that being said, the Skyliner opens at 8:30 in the morning, right? And closes at 8:30 at night.
An hour before the park opens and an hour after the park closes. And now everyone's on limited park schedules.
Correct. Now
so is the Skyliner and the monorail.
And the buses, by the way. The buses, the monorail, and the Skyliner, which are the only things open right now for transportation. And when I even say that, we're going to get more into details about that. They are open an hour before parks and close an hour after parks. All of them. Now, this is going to come into effect when you have an 8 o'clock breakfast reservation. But transportation doesn't open until 8:30 or 8 o'clock. Right?
Yep.
That's what happened. And we found out the first night when we had dinner at El Milano, thank you, at the Swan, Dolphin and Swan, but it was at the Swan Resort. And that is very close to Epcot. So we took the Skyliner from Caribbean Beach to Epcot, and then we walked over to the Swan. Afterwards, our reservations were around 8:20, I believe, 8:20 p.m.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yes, somewhere around there. We usually had around 8 o'clock, 8 p.m. or 8:20. So when we were done with our meal and left around 9:30 p.m., were we surprised when the Epcot Skyliner was closed. There was a gate there.
Yep. Gated up and security guard.
Yeah. Sorry, not happening. You're not getting back this way. Move it along. And we're like, what?
Although he did try.
He did try. He asked.
To take pity on us, but
he did.
Work out,
and they were like, no, sorry. So we walked around from resort to resort trying to figure out how to get back. We asked a cast member at the yacht club.
Was it the yacht club or was it the beach club?
It was the yacht. We were in the yacht.
Okay. Because I was like, even after that horrible experience with the lack of customer service, I still want to stay at the beach club resort.
Yeah, we want to stay at the beach club resort next time. But we talked to somebody at the yacht club. And they were like, yeah, sorry, so sad. We don't know how you're going to get back to your hotel. And then...
Super helpful.
Yeah, super helpful. And then I think we went into Boardwalk, right? and they told us, somebody told us, I want to say it was Boardwalk.
I think it was that security guard behind the gate.
Oh, maybe it was. Because we found them after we went into the yacht and said, how do we get back to our hotel? And the transportation from resort to resort buses are not working. And even if you look up online, they don't tell you that at all. They don't say that that's not optional or closed or not available at this time. So we thought it was available, and it is not. So if we would not have ran into a very fantastic cast member who was a bus driver that took pity on us, what we would have had to do is take a bus from a resort, which we were at Boardwalk, resort to Disney Springs, transfer buses from Disney Springs to our resort. And that's pretty much...
Which we had to do numerous times.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's pretty much how we did it the rest of the trip, because that's was the only option. And it would take an hour and a half to get back to wherever we were trying to get back to, because we had to do that, right?
Yeah, with waiting for the buses and the bus stops and making sure we get on the right one and finding the bus stops and and finding where number 16 is when it clearly dead ends at number 5 or whatever number. They get reprimanded for walking in front of traffic. Yeah, we made it. We're fine.
That was me.
Yeah, she did try and get us banned, though.
I did. Signage is not very clear at this moment. So, with that being said, the resort buses are not working. The boats are not working. The Epcot Monorail is not working. What else was closed? When I say not working, they were closed at this time. We talked to somebody who said that they just haven't brought all their cast members back, which we all know, and that's why they're not those options are not available at this time. Oh, minivans is not an option at all. So basically, you can get a bus from the resort to the parks. You can get a bus from the parks to the resorts. You can get a bus from Disney Springs to the resorts. And you can get a bus from the resorts to Disney Springs. You cannot get a bus from the parks to Disney Springs.
Which would have been helpful.
That would have been helpful one night because we had dinner there.
We had to take a bus from one of the parks to one of the resorts to get a bus to Disney Springs to get onto a bus to go to our resort.
No, we had dinner there. No, we had dinner at...
Yeah, we did dinner.
We had dinner at Disney Springs. That's why we had to get there after a park time.
We're still on night 1.
Well, we're really on transportation.
Yeah, that's true.
What else? Oh, no boats. Okay. Yes. So, other than having the buses that do the parks and parks to the resorts, and they have the monorail that does the 3 resorts into Magic Kingdom. Other than that, they have a Skyliner, and the Skyliner is working. Other than that, you would have to use not their taxi service, but a taxi service that is on Disney property called Mears, which is MEARS, or Uber. You'd have to Uber it, and yeah, of course they charge for that. But there were times when we had to do that because we had 4 times. It was 4 times that we had to do that because we had... Pardon?
2 Uber, 2 Mears.
Okay, we did 2 Mears and 2 Uber, and it was because we had a reservation before even the buses were running, or we didn't have an hour and a half to take a bus to Disney Springs, transfer buses, and then get to another resort by 8 a.m. Right?
Yeah, well, the buses don't run to Disney Springs that early, but...
They don't.
At all. To get back to our resort so that we could have the Magical Express take us back. We had to take Uber twice that day, I think.
Yeah, we did. You're right. Sorry, my eye itches. So that's the transportation thing. That was our biggest hang up, I would say, for the whole trip. And I think even though we had a fantastic time on the trip, I felt like we talked a lot about transportation because it was the one thing. Yeah, it was our number one complaint, issue, hardship. We'd both never been to Disney World, and it's massive, massive. And I go to Disneyland all the time, and transportation is obviously not an issue there. You literally walk across the parking lot from one resort to the other resort, from one park, thank you, to the other park. There's like no transportation. But obviously Disney World is massive, and the parks are all spread out. The resorts are all spread out. There's really nothing walkable that we tried. It's just, I think because it did cut into a lot of our time was spent on the buses, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But they were social distancing on the buses, so it wasn't overcrowded.
That's true.
The person I was smashed up against was her, which was great because strangers don't need that.
That's true.
Yeah.
But they did. You're right. They on the buses, on the transportation, whether it's the Skyliner, the buses, I think that's all we took. Social distancing was great. They always made sure everybody was wearing their masks. They would tell you what numbers to sit into. They had partitions and don't sit here's all throughout the bus. And they could carry 6 families. They had 6 numbers, so 6 families could go on a bus. And then the wait time, depending on where you were for another bus, could be anywhere from 20 to 40 minutes, depending. Right?
Yeah.
All right, and if you're on a Skyliner, you get the little Skyliner gondola to yourself, to your party. Right? Okay. Mm-hmm. Anything else to say about transportation before we move on?
I hope it works better in 2023.
Yeah, me too. We're planning on going 2023, and I hope everything is back up and transportation. I hope everything with transportation is back up and running to make it smoother with kids. Let me tell you. All right, everyone. That is gonna be it for series number 1. We're gonna call it a 3 series now because this is running quite long. So as you know, in this one we talked about the airport and transportation, but next time we will talk about the parks and Disney Springs. So look forward to that. If you are new here, think about hitting the subscribe button. We'd love to have you join the family. And until next time, bye everyone.